Well, thank you. It's great to be here, and Merry Christmas is the right word. I'm really grateful that we're calling it what it is. It's a celebration of Christ's birthday, and to try and diminish that is really wrong and immoral, in my opinion. We have respect for other people's holidays, Hanukkah for the Jews, and then there's a number of religions that have their special time, and we all respect that. So this is a Christian nation. It was founded on Judeo-Christian principles, and that's why we are a great republic. We are not a democracy. We are a republic, and with that, we have rights far beyond what any nation on earth has ever had. In fact, of all the nations that have ever been, we are by far the greatest, of course, but our greatness is only on the way up. It's going to get better and better. I just saw, I think it was yesterday or the day before, it's hard for me to tell sometimes because my weeks are joined together without a day off other than some church time. But I just saw where right now the economy of the United States, it's the greatest increase in our gross national product and our growth in the history of this nation. For the 240 years it's gone back, this is the greatest. Well, we're a part of this great opportunity, but an opportunity is what you make of it. It may be there, but if you don't do anything about it, it will pass you by. For the only constant thing you have in life is change. And so if that is it, and you don't change or adjust with it to whatever it is, you get swept aside, or you sit there and watch it go by you and maintain a lifestyle that you wished you had a better one. And I say that to the people, and I'm preaching to the choir here, I know, because you're all entrepreneurial people. But most people are just destined to die at or below the poverty level. In fact, that's what the statistics show, that, or retire at or below the poverty level. About 95% of the people that retire will retire at or below the poverty level. Well, and the average lifespan now is about 75 years old. It's gone down now for 3 consecutive years. And yet, in a sophisticated world that we live in, how can it be with so much more knowledge, so big as medicine is devouring our economy with overpriced pharmaceuticals and procedures and all of that, how can it be that our lifespan is decreasing rather than increasing? Well, that's for another time to talk about, but I've talked about it before, because why the average lifespan used to be about 45 years old, that was 150 years ago. But 1 out of every 7 women, mothers and babies died at childbirth. 50% of all the children died before the age of 5. So if you take a look at that, just throw that on. That probably puts 25 or 30 years on the average lifespan. And then you think of the incurable diseases that were cured years ago. Here we sit. But now our bodies are deteriorating more rapidly in a more modern society. So what should we do? Sit there and let it happen, or step in and do something about it? That's what I want to talk to you about today, is I want to talk to you about really the art of dying well, a good way to end your life. So now there are some obvious facts of aging, and obvious facts also of growing younger, living longer, and ending aging. But to most people, they're unknown, or they're science fiction or skeptical, until we are faced with retirement at age 65, and then at that age, you're going to really come face to face with reality. And as Shakespeare said in his one of his famous quotes was, "Of all the words of mice and men, the saddest are those it might have been." And so we're heading down to that 65 years. Some of us are over that 65 years, but you still have it within your power to do incredible things for your lives. See, for most of our lives, of course, we work hard. We're reaching for success, and then we face retirement. And what is that based upon? Well, it's based upon retiring at or below the poverty level, because that's the way business and the government has got it structured. And when you get to be 75 years old or younger, you are expendable. In fact, is they want to get rid of you. In Europe, they had a measure that they were trying to get rid of cigarettes, and their Department of Health came to the EU, to the ministers, and said, you don't want to get rid of cigarettes because it shortens the lifespan of the average person by 10 or 15 years. And with that, you will have a lot of people that will die off that you'll never have to pay benefits to. So it's not economically good sense to remove cigarettes because of what it does to make our benefits decrease that we have to pay out. Now, I don't know if that horrifies you, but it is hard to believe that people believe that way. But I had a friend in the Ukraine, a woman, and I knew her and her mother, and her mother fell and broke her hip, and she broke it in a number of places. And so I was concerned, this a few years ago, and so I asked them how she was doing, and she said they ran one of my warehouses in my previous company, so I had a good relationship with them. But anyway, they said, oh, she's not doing well, she's just in bed all the time. And I said, well, aren't they going to operate to correct it, to get it to bond? And they said, no, they're not, because they said she is too old and it's not worth the expenditure that it takes to save her. Now, that's a horrifying thing. Oh, you're too old to spend the money on to be saved and your body repaired. Well, we're going to talk about some of those things here at Sisel, because we are diametrically opposed to that type of philosophy. And with us, we want to give you all of the tools that you need to become successful in it, in life, in what you're doing. And since change is the only thing that's constant in this world, to meet change, you must change. And Sisel is that opportunity to change and to change for the better. So what if you had more time? Can you imagine if you had another 40, 50, or maybe 75 years to live? Would that make a difference to you in how you lived? I think it would. Well, it's absolutely irrefutable. You can extend your life way beyond what most of us has accepted as what we call our chronological age, or age limit, which is now somewhere around 75. But anyway, and some people will live longer, of course, but the average is that. So if that's the case, at what point can we really go? What can we do? And so science is so far ahead in epigenetics, and they map the human genome, and they say we have the potential to live between 125 and 150 years old. So when we die, if 75 is the average age where people die, and you think you have the potential to live to be 150, what did you die of? You died of middle age. Well, nobody dies of middle age. You die of disease that kicks in somewhere prior to age 75, because your body has decayed and degenerated, aged, to the point of where the disease kicks in that's going to kill you. So how about if your body was regenerated, restored, and rejuvenated to the point of where deterioration didn't come in, the decay was stopped? Then what would happen? That incurable disease that you were going to get could be sidestepped. That's the theory of what we're talking about. So if you could live that much longer, one question is that I would ask you to think about is, if we can not only live a longer life, but wouldn't you also want a fulfilling one? Because it's very difficult to see people who've retired and they're just getting by, and family and things like that. And I have some in my family that have done that. And my one brother, who's younger than I am, just retired. And he says, I don't have anything. And it's all because of the choices that I didn't make years ago, the things that I didn't do. And now I'm paying the price for it, and I can't go back. Well, I can tell him how to do that to a point, but it's not in his nature to do that. So I give him health products and do those things to help him with that, but he's not going to put into what it takes to have the lifestyle that he wants that Sisel opportunity gives to people. So what I say, that there's a famous MLM trainer. He's passed away a few years ago of cancer, but it doesn't have to, he was a good trainer, and he had a saying, and it was SW, 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 and it meant some will, some won't, so what? And then he said, who's next? And that's the way you need to think about this. Some people won't do it. Some people will do it. If they do it, they don't. Okay. That's great. You work for the ones that do. If those people choose not to, okay, so what? Who's next? You need to keep replenishing your downline and supporting your downline so they can do the same thing. And then you're on a road to financial freedom, of prosperity, and for many of you, wealth. And there are people on this call right now that their incomes are wealthy. There's a couple in another country where you'd almost say it was obscene, but they're great people and they do good, and they've earned it. So who's to deny them? So the opportunity is now here for you, but you have to have the right track to run on, and that's what we're putting into it. So if you understand that if what it would take to make a difference in how you live and what you did to live this way, but it requires you to understand that you have a biological age, which is radically different than your chronological age. What it takes is change to change it. And it starts with the power of choice, and there is the pivotal point. And a practice of self-reliance and passion, being dedicated to what you're doing. I mean, dedication is so important. Persistence pays. And most importantly, you really need to visualize, to think ahead, to dream a little bit, but I mean in a reality way, that's visualizing, so that you have a greater sense of your ultimate purpose. For we do have an ultimate purpose that is far beyond what society and this world is giving us. But now with the advances that are here, with what Sisel has, you can take it and make it with it, because the tools are here for you to do it, to live happier, healthier, and more prosperous or wealthy. So that's what we're dedicated to doing with it. Now, currently there's a lot of research that goes on in longevity and life fulfillment. And what we want to do is really show you how to live fully at any age with the great health, prosperity, happiness that is possible for us if we but change and do the things that we should do. So ask yourself this question: would you make the necessary changes in your life that would make a 120 to 150 year lifespan full of vitality, passion, and purpose? Possibly you would, but possibly you wouldn't. So that's where it comes back to choice. And then it goes into your dedication and your commitment and your passion and your energy. And understand that Attitude and energy overcome all obstacles. I should say that again. You should write it down on your arm. Attitude and energy overcome all obstacles. You see, obstacles can be an obstacle or they can be a stepping stone depending on whether you look at it. Now, there's people that in their natural genetics and environment is they see the glass of water and it's half empty. Others see it half full. And which way do you think will fill the glass? Someone that's looking at half empty and it's draining, or somebody that's looking at the potential to make it full? A very simple illustration, but one that's quite important for us to consider that and to understand that not everybody has the same wants, and definitely not everyone, most won't, make the commitment to do it. But for those that will, they can have that which they want that others would like to have but won't make the commitment to do it. So that's what we have with it. So if you consider this, suppose you're 50 years old and you had a chronological lifespan of about another 35 years, because 75 is the average. That takes you 85, but that's been up where, especially women were living up to that, but now they're deteriorating in age and lifespan quite a bit. So if you could live up to a potential, you had another 35 years to live, but it would be with the continued deteriorating aging and health, and you could expand it so that you could live to be 120, would you want to do that? I don't think so. But how about if you could live at a younger biological age to reach 120 years? So that would be pretty amazing, wouldn't it? If you're 40, let's just put this into perspective. 40 would mean you could live to good health. This is the potential. We're hypothesizing because the science is so new, but what has happened is so strong. So 40, you could live to be 130. But with the way things are going, they mapped the human genome and they said you can live, if you got poor genetics, 120 years. If you have good genetics, you can live 150. Okay, so we have that potential. But we don't want to live that long unless we're in great health and we had the financial security to do it with. That's what Sisel is all about with what we're doing. We're dedicated to giving you the track to run on, but you have to make the choice. You have to do it. You have to be diligent, dedicated, persistent if you're going to get what you want. But it is there, and it's not difficult. This is not rocket science. Well, what I'm talking to you about is for products, but just leave that to us. You just need to know the benefits and not the features. If you know the benefits and you see the results, then you can have a lifestyle that you want. And by not what you want necessarily, but what you can get for other people to do it. So there's an onslaught of research and discoveries going on that, quite candidly, could increase the biological health or biological age to a greater extent, even more so. In fact, as some of the world's leading longevity scientists are saying that a person born today should live to be 200 to 300 years old. Well, that's pretty interesting, isn't it? 200 to 300 years. But yet, by the time they get that point, don't you think enough things would be made or discovered that could do that? And so what these scientists are all saying, and they just had a big convention in Vegas on it with a world's leading consortium of scientists who are involved in longevity, age extension, ending aging. And they predict, these scientists did at that meeting, that through a spokesman, said that by the year 2045, they believe immortality will be achieved for anyone born after that date. And that's little incomprehensible, isn't it, almost? But we're changing so fast. The next 10 years is going to be the greatest change of your entire lifespan, because we're moving away from traditional work that we have, and we're getting into innovative, creative ways of doing things. And if you don't adapt, then you're not going to be ready for the rest of it and what you do. And if you're going to live that long and you want to be healthy, you have to have the income to do it with. So right now, especially this next 10 years, you're going to have the most fantastic opportunities as things change. Information becomes readily at your fingertips. You'll be able to sit there and they think within 10 or 15 years that all the knowledge of the world is you'll just say something and everything you want is there. It will be available to you. I don't know how we'll handle all of that, but these people are visionaries, and they're not extremists. They're really looking at how things are progressing. So keeping that in mind, you look into the Bible and you see the ancients, they lived 500 to maybe 1,000 years old. Well, is that, you question that, but it's very possible, because for one example, there are creatures on this earth right now that are immortal. Some of them in the sea have lived 500 million years old. Some have lived 1 billion years. Some have lived 1.5 billion years, they determined. That means this organism, one actually happens to be a jellyfish, which I like to talk about, but this one, jellyfish, was first created from whatever the evolutionary process went, or God-given implant, I don't know, but created 1 billion years ago. And that single individual is still alive, and it can't die. There are processes within it. And here's a simple jellyfish that is immortal, that has no lifespan on it. It means nothing to them. So if we take a look at this, and we can take things right now to animals and mammals, and many of these processes that we're talking about are available are the same in both mammals or reptiles, fish, any of those things. Some of these basics are basic. And with that, we can take that kind of knowledge and really do something about it to make a significant change in our lives. Because now immortality is not just for the next life. Sure, it's there for us in the next life, but we're going to put you flat square on the road to immortality. And you're going to be driving down it. Your speed's going to be increasing. And then you're going to go into warp drive, and you're going to be flying down the road to immortality. So think of it this way. Let's just understand that if the average lifespan is 75, now with the changes that are there, if you're on these products and possibly 50, no one knows, because it takes all the years of testing to find out. But if you're 50 or less, you can look at 120 as the new 60, and maybe 150 as the new 75. If you're younger you are with what we have right now. That's my estimation based upon what others are saying and research that has been found. But I'm on the cutting edge of this like nobody else in this industry, even far beyond what many of these big institutions, leading university hospital research centers, huge research clinics and things like that. They concentrate on one thing, but they overlook the whole big picture. And so it's like the philosophy that there's a magic bullet that will cure everything. Well, there isn't. A magic bullet will do that. And it's just like, could you only eat one type of food for the rest of your life? You'd have a short lifespan. You'd have a lot of disease, wouldn't you? Because you have so many different organs and systems and needs for nutrition that you have to have diversity in that. And it's the same thing with ending aging. And I started in this thing where the first thing was antioxidants. Neutralize these things that cause you to rust, to oxidize away. And then it went into longevity, to help you to live longer, healthier. And then it went into really life extension. Let's extend the parameters. And then that stayed that way for a long time. And here just 4 or 5 years ago, it came to where we could end aging. We understand that aging, and by the FDA or any Minister of Health, aging is not a disease. Aging is decay and degeneration. So it's a symptom. And if it's not a disease, a symptom can be treated with that. So if we can end the decay and regenerate more cells than are being lost every day, where are you at? You're at a place where you have no choice, in my opinion, a humble opinion, or not so humble. You're in a choice right now where it's going to be virtually impossible for you not to grow younger every day. And that's the kind of things we have and some of the things that we're doing. Well, I wanted to come across with the end of the year, and I don't know if I'll speak to you before that, but nonetheless, this year is ending. And for many people, and many of you perhaps, but for most people, they're a lot older than they were a year ago. And unless you're a teenager going up through to where you get your 20s, but for everyone else, you're a lot older than you were the year before. And the older you get, the longer you've lived, the longer your chronological age is, the faster your biological age is deteriorating. And when you get to the point of you're in your 60s to 70s, you are aging about 3 days for every day that you live. That's why you see so many people go downhill so fast. And that, how are they doing it? Well, decay and degeneration has been building up for decades and keeps accelerating. And now it's gotten to the point where you wake up in the morning and you're 3 days older. But how about waking up in the morning and you're a day younger? Is that feasible? Half a day younger? I'd take that, wouldn't you? With it every day. And so that's what we're offering right now, because many people are considerably older, but many of you that are on this call are younger than you were a year ago. And you've seen some of the testimonies and things that people have been putting in and showing just the kind of results they've had with the products that we carry. But this next year now, I say you've got the next 10 years to really get with it, or you're going to be really left behind. You're going to be living in the old century. You'll be living in 20th century technologies. In fact, as the children that are going to universities now, most of them are graduating with a degree that is absolutely worthless. Worthless now in many cases, and most of them worthless with what is changing in the world and is going to change over the next 10 to 20 years. And it's because of this evolution in knowledge and skills and everything. And so a student spends all that time and comes out with a load of debt. And why is that load of debt? For those of you that went to university and we had to pay our own way, wasn't so bad. But they come along, and these bureaucrats, this deep state, they decided that they would guarantee loans. And so universities jumped on that, and they went up 3-4 times increase year after year after year in what they're charging students, because students didn't feel the fact of it. They grew up through teenage years with mom and dad there, and now they needed it. Well, they could get that loan. They wouldn't feel any of the pain, and then they graduated, and the pain is, in some cases, utterly impossible to get rid of because the debt is so great. And think of the waste that they spent their time, owe that much money, and the degree they have is meaningless or has very little meaning in many cases. So I'm just saying those things so you get the idea of what's happening in our world. But we have the program that where we can tell you if it's to be, it's up to me. Okay, you can now do it, but you got to have a track to run on with what we're doing. So this next year, when it starts, or shortly thereafter, you have to let you get over New Year's and Christmas and that, but as right after the first of the year, sometime within that month, we're going to come out with the most spectacular discoveries, even far beyond what we have right now. Some added to what we have right now in many cases. Some totally new. And we're going to bring these out, and it's not just bringing them out and you think, oh, here's another product. Oh, that looks exciting. I'll try that. What we're actually doing is we're going to put it in a format and a presentation for you where you can see it on the internet, or you can watch it on video, and those types of and those ways of communicating with it. And it will not be just informative. It'll certainly have the information there, but we're going to sell the benefits, not the features, but we're going to tell enough about it to justify it. And what we're going to do is lay out a marketing approach that is the most terrific, powerful, beautiful thing I have ever seen in all the years I've been in business. I've never been so excited about what we can do with this new presentation. Why? Because it's one where it's a plug and play and people can see it, and then you can answer a few questions and they're going to be so into it. If they're not, then check their pulse. But most people that are really taking a look at this thing are going to be so sold, and then you say, yeah, you can do it, and we got an easy way for you to get your products for free. But the important thing is recruiting. And if you understand one thing about multi-level marketing, the three most important words are recruit, recruit, recruit. After that, we train and develop. And that's the business what we're in, is recruiting, training, and developing distributors. And so the fortune's in the follow-up, but you need to do it. But to get them in, the average person has a tough time making a presentation. Why? Because they never made presentations to a degree in a professional way. And so what we are giving you is not just a professional way, a spectacular, exciting, highly motivational way with a series of products that you can use that will put you flying down the road to immortality, put you on the fast track to, you'll have ended aging, toxicity can be handled, degeneration can go into accelerated regeneration. The biological systems are there to do all of that. Things that deteriorate fast, like the brain, because it has 60,000 calculations all the time going on it, uses 30% of your oxygen, even though it weighs just over 1% of your body weight. And so we get the things that come with the brain. And dementia and Alzheimer's are only a couple of them. But you know what? How does the body avoid that when they're younger? What can be restored to that to make that condition return? Can it be done nutritionally, with nutraceuticals, with complementary natural medicines? And we're not talking about, here's a herb with something. We're talking about the specific, powerful ingredient that institutions are researching to see if they can find a synthetic molecule so they can patent it and then bring it out for this. But now you got to see your doctor, and you got to pay an obscene price for it, or your health insurance is so high because they're gouging us so bad. But wouldn't it be better to just avoid that? If you thought for yourself, and I'll just give you a thought, if you could spend $200 on yourself every month, and you can take your potential lifespan, and think of it right now, whatever your age is, if your potential lifespan, let's say it went to 85, okay? So look at the difference between where you're at now, 50, 40, 60, wherever it is, and 85. And suppose you could double that. Suppose you could triple that lifespan. Now you want great health. We've got it like no company on earth has ever got it. No one, there's no place to get the things that we are providing right now. Yeah, there's some woefully inadequate things that kind of nibble on the edges. This is the whole banana, folks. It's the whole pizza. We've got it all here for you, and it's not very complex. With about 4 simple products, you can achieve the kind of health, the kind of regeneration, ending aging, growing younger, living longer, having energy, vitality, all with this sensational plan that we have, marketing, sales tools that we have coming out. It's not like a sales tool you've ever seen before. This one will set you back, and it will set everyone back that looks at it. And the biggest thing you'll have to see or fight, in many cases people would just be there and you explain it, but there's always some that say, oh, I don't believe it. If that was possible, it would be in medicine. No, it wouldn't. These things are the same natural, powerful ingredients in nature that they're trying to get a synthetic molecule with a different structure to mimic the effect, and with it comes all the side effects. But here is the power. Here is what they found. Here is the discovery in nature, that they will spend $2 billion and 15 years of development to get through the approval process. Why is the approval process so expensive and takes so long? Because bureaucracy. And I just found out, I'm pretty shocked about what's happening, and some of you have seen my posts, but within prescription drugs and medical charges, about, it's where the medical procedures, you see some of them where, like they're saying, up to 75% do not need to be done. In many cases, it's 30%, 40%, 50%. And cesarean sections, C-sections. It's so common now. The doctors want to do them all the time, and yet there is only 1 out of 20 cases that has a C-section that actually needs it. So why are the doctors doing it? Where you have to cut into the woman, and there's scars and pain and healing, and that sticks with them all their life because it pays more money. And so as I took a look, and I'm pretty disgusted with some of the people. If you remember when the country was run out of money last time, and instead of sitting and trying to work it out between the two different parties, the Democrats, they went to, I believe it was Puerto Rico. It was either Puerto Rico or Florida, I can't remember, but they had a big conference there. It wasn't them paying for it. There were about 1,000 lobbyists from the pharmaceutical industry that paid for these lavish trips and hotels and all of this that went on. Now, why did they just pick them? Because they will vote. In fact, as many of these, most of these bills that come through on pharmaceuticals or medicine are written up by pharmaceutical companies and given to somebody who can, you want to talk about bribery, can be bribed by political donations and things like that. And that's what we're facing. And then I found out, here's the thing that really put me over the top. I found out here within the last 2 weeks that 40% of all the price of a drug that you buy, the pharmaceutical company gives it back to the FDA. So do you see why they have a hand-in-glove philosophy working together? 40% of every drug sold in America, approximately, goes back to the FDA. That's horrible. And you know what? They don't give a hang. Because all we are is a commodity. We're not human beings to them, the way that they see it. This is problems with big government, bureaucracy, the deep state, big medicine, monopolies, all of these types of things. So how do you fight that? Well, that's why I'm in this business. We fight it because free enterprise is the best tool. If companies had to negotiate prices and be competitive, everyone would be better. There'd be more jobs and things would be more reasonable to buy, and we'd have more things and more income and all of that with it. But it doesn't work that way, but Sisel darn well does. And what I'm doing is the profit the company takes, I'm paying back to you in commissions. And most of it, I just have enough left to expand on growth because I don't need the money. So I'm dedicated to doing everything I can to maximize how much return you can get off the effort you put in. But this is not your individual effort. This is the effort that you can get other people to make. And if you do, then you've got the makings of success, because we have the products to die for. We have the products that people hope for, and some thought were out there somewhere. They just couldn't get their hands on them. But what was there was the science. But now that science has been turned, that science fiction has now turned into reality, into real science. And that's what we have here at Sisel. So I'm going to introduce a new product, a couple of new products. One for skin care. I can't tell you when it'll come out because I don't know, but I'm working it. Very difficult because they've discovered in epigenetics, that's the effect of some types of compounds on the genetic code that we have. And it's just like pushing a button, if you will, to create a certain activity. Well, all of this comes from stem cells. There's no doubt about that, because they produce the replacement cells that wear out with what this is. But there's a lot of waste along the way, and stem cells wear out. And what happens with skin is you have even a worse thing, because you have incidental light, not even has to be direct sunlight, that coming in your skin that is aging it. And it ages it by oxidizing the genome, the genes, and when that epigenetic change happens, it breaks, and the skin folds in to pull it in a natural way to protect it. So a wrinkle is actually a protection against the assault that has already damaged the skin, and sagging skin and things like that, and eye bags. Well, the discovery has been made, 2 of them, that you can rub into the skin and it turns off the aging switch, so that your skin, and you have to say it the correct way for cosmetics, seems, looks, appears much younger, much less wrinkled, and with more sparkle, life, vitality, color, all of that. Now, how would you like to have that product? Nobody on planet Earth has it. You will have it next year early with our company. And the other is too big to talk about. I told you a number of times that I think the discovery, the age pill, or NAD, which is based around, is the greatest discovery in the history of human health. I still stand by that, and I thought it would never be able to be equaled. But now I'm reassessing that, and I believe that the greatest discovery ever in the history of human health is being done, but I have found out what it is. I have found out to do it much better than the big research laboratory that's working on it, that's trying to make synthetic patent. I've added many other powerful ingredients, some of which I had 20 years ago, and I didn't realize, because we didn't know enough about the human genome and how it worked. We just knew some of the effects it did. And now we can put them together in spectacular fashion with a number of ingredients all attacking the same situation or supporting it that needs to be done. And I believe this discovery, which will be out shortly, right after the first of the year, sometime in January, will be out there. This will exceed, in my opinion, the age pill, but they go hand in glove. One does one thing and the other does a total other thing. And when I explain them to you, I sort of have on some of it before, it will be amazing. This new product you'll take every second or every third day and one time. So it has a whole different way of working, and it has to work within the body, and it works through epigenetics. And when it does, there's all of the cause and the effects are quite pronounced. So you have to give the body a day or two to resuscitate itself and to take advantage of what has been done. And what has been done is going to set immortality on its heels. This thing is so powerful. You put this with the age pill, you put this with TSX to keep those telomeres on stem cells warping out just as fast as they can at maximum speed. Cancer cells operate at the optimal speed that a cell can duplicate, a stem cell. All cancer cells are stem cells that have been mutated, and so they get the DNA broken, so they don't have any definition that they follow. They just duplicate, and so that's why it grows and spreads so fast because of that. And so to take a normal stem cell, it operates like that when you're in your teenage years and in your 20s, but then it starts going down. But how about if you took that young cell and you kept it operating at that in that young person all of their life? Where do you think they would be? I mean, they would be, if you're the same age and you got to a certain point, 60 years old, they'd look like your son or your grandson. And theoretically, I'm just saying. I mean, those things are illustrations, not proven science. But nonetheless, with that, that's the kind of effects that there can be with the age pill as it ends aging, as it resets your biological time clock, and the stem cells that you have left, and many of them are dormant. The older you get, the more dormant stem cells you have. But the stem cells that you have left can be revitalized, so they're putting out much more of the new cells. How about the ones that become dormant? They're very dangerous. They put our worst types of toxins into the body. But we didn't fall off no turnip truck. We've looked at this, and we know just exactly what can be done on this situation. And I won't say more at this time because I don't want to let too much out. But the excitement of this, of what we're doing, is beyond belief. You will, if you get out and recruit and present, you will shake the very foundations of network marketing because what it can do with it. So anyway, that's what the future lies. And so I wanted to express all of that to you because I wanted 2 points to come across, 3 actually. The year is ending up. A lot of you are younger, a lot of you are more prosperous and even happier. But next year, we're going to erupt. We're going to go into violently fast growth. I'm a little scared of it, actually. And we're trying to prepare for that here. Because if you do your job, the tools you have and the products to back this thing up can create success, potentially create success and prosperity and wealth and health and all of those things like has never, ever been possible on Earth. So that's what it's going to be. And it starts. But at the next 10 years, remember, this world is going into an innovative, creative momentum. And traditional business and traditional working is going to become obsolete, and it will be a second-rate life for those that are there to do those things. But you're here, and you have like-minded people like you, so you can take this opportunity to them, and when they see this opportunity, they'll want it for themselves, and if they do, there are others that will, and the presentation, I believe, will sell itself to most people, and all you have to do is present it and then follow up, and once they're in, train and develop them, get them to do other things like that. And for those of you that do, and you look at some of those people that are out there, I mean, if you look at Mary and Laura and Katie and Ray and Tom down in Florida, Pat Garrett, and I go on and on with this kind of thing, but those people are ready to fly, and they are going to create an armada of distributors that will create tremendous success for millions and literally millions of people. In my previous company, I had about 1 million distributors, not quite, with that kind of thing. And then, of course, a lot of customers out of that type of thing. And I had the fifth biggest business in network marketing. Out of 1,200 companies, I went from the smallest at one time to the 5th largest before I sold it with the divorce. But nonetheless, that growth was awesome. And to see what it did, I figured I created at least 1,000 millionaires. Well, the people did because of the format I gave them. I think that's insignificant to what we're going to do. I think we're going to create tens of thousands, if not maybe 100,000 millionaires or multimillionaires out of this. I don't think we're going to get 1 million distributors. We're going to get millions and millions and millions of them. And I don't talk this way, but we are to that point, and what we've done and the price that we paid to get us there, we're there. We're at the doorway, and now the new technologies are going to just explode, and we're going to be right with it and going along, giving you an avenue that you don't have to be left in the past thinking, oh, wish you could have gone back and got a degree in this or that or the other. You'll have better than a degree. You'll have your freedom. You'll have all the independence that comes with it, and you'll have the kind of lifestyle that you deserve. A lifestyle that's prosperous or wealthy, a lifestyle that's extremely healthy, a lifestyle where you will live a much longer time at a much younger age with that kind of thing, and you'll be able to provide for you and yours and do the other things that MLMs have always said you could do, and very seldom does it happen or only happens to a few. This is for all that we'll do. This is so simple with our compensation plan because it pays so dramatic. With the kind of products we have to fuel that, these are the products that when people really knew, they would want to take them away from you for what they can do. So prepare for what's coming out. I'll probably do a very confidential leadership call to get the leaders intensely trained on this, and that'll probably happen for the end of the year, so they're ready to go. And if you see your leaders walking around, staggering around like a drunken sailor, it's going to be their mind will just be blown with all of this that we're doing, with all that can happen, and they're going to pass it on to you because, after all, this is a business based upon duplication and multiplication. And so that's what you've got to do to be successful in that. Well, there's a lot of other things to talk about. Hydrogen is just blowing the doors off. I might start publishing a few more things on hydrogen. They found that just hydrogen, and it's great antioxidant, but they're finding things like hydrogen, and of course they had no product in the world like ours. But the hydrogen goes through it, and an athlete can exercise virtually without fatiguing. And if they do, they can operate at about 20% higher rate. But you have to have a certain therapeutic dose of it, and ours provides way more than that so that it can happen. And so they go on, and the recovery time is so fast in comparison to not the aches and the pains and all that. The muscle building, the rebuilding of tissues and organs and everything because of this is escalated. And there's a lot more to it than that. I won't go through it all. But even middle-aged women for weight loss, this is a product that really does it. And it's one of the big four that we're going to have that we're putting together for coming out. Well, we have some of them right now, 3. You have TSX, you have the age pill, and you have hydrogen. But you're going to see a new down the road here, and I don't know how quick that'll be. You have to run out of product before you do it, but you're going to see a new age pill that's going to be like it's on steroids. You're going to see a new TSX like it goes from a hand glider to a moon rocket with what we're doing with it. And the hydrogen, I don't know what to say about hydrogen. They're just discovering all these things it can do. And then the new product, get ready, folks, when this new one comes out and you put it with the other three, you're going to be absolutely goulash. You have no choice. You'll just be all over the place because it is so overwhelming. So anyway, I want to wish you all happy holiday season and a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year if I don't talk to you before. But understand this, while you're out shopping, I'm going to be in here working for you because I'm totally dedicated to making you happier, healthier, and wealthier on a scale that has been unimaginable for even the average person before, but for the above average like what you are, because you're so entrepreneurial, and it's here in Sisel. So I'll turn the time back to you, DW. He fell asleep.
Good morning, Tom. This is Laura.